on these YouTube channels for No Man's Sky, you see an awful lot of praise and this sort of circular love for No Man's Sky, but certainly you must have some feedback, right? Or I want to get Bicycle Walrus's feelings on No Man's Sky
All right,
as it
so
stands now.
look, let me just make it clear. I don't hate No Man's Sky. I like No Man's Sky. In fact, I would even say that I love the game. And the thing is that it's that love, and that's why I'm so critical. Because I felt like with Atlas Rises, we had a really cool, complete package, and I was really happy with it. I was playing Atlas Rises about a month and a half, 2 months before Next came out. We were all on board the hype train. We did the summon, the trailer, we did the whole thing, and it was fun, and I got in. And for the first week or so of No Man's Sky Next, I felt like it was a new package. But then there was problem. Technical problem after technical problem. Features that I used to enjoy from Atlas Rise stripped out of the game. Couldn't find it. The racetrack thing, which they were advertising and building up the tracks, pieces didn't fit together, and the components weren't even in the game. Couldn't even get them. And, the underwater buildings with water inside, it never quite fixed itself. At least while I was still playing, and I waited until I think 3 patches later before I got so tired of the technical problems, the loading issues. It was heavily unoptimized, and I just felt like we had something really cool with Atlas Rises, and even though Next added some features, it broke a lot of the existing features. In many ways, seemed seemingly unplayable. And at the same time, the new objectives like the artifact hunts, things like that, I was really looking forward to, ended up being pretty much the same trivial thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The easy ways to make money, exploits, etc., greatly shrunk the universe. And I've never been a fan of how portals work. I don't like the Stargate concept, and then the fact that they were building their online experience pretty much around that concept, going through a portal somewhere. And those events, by the way, never happened before I stopped playing. I quit playing before that happened, and that was delayed, I think, for about a month. Those online events, and so. It didn't feel like we were getting a lot of communication. We didn't really know what was going on. And one of the things leading into Next that we were promised from Hello Games and Company was that they would be more transparent. They would tell us what they were working on when they were working on it.
It's true.
It wouldn't be any of this lead up with absolutely no idea what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm coming into Beyond. I wouldn't even say cautiously optimistic. I would say hopeful that it's what I want it to be, and I don't when I say what I want it to be, I don't want it to be something it ain't. But just a game that works, that has a reason to compel me to explore. I feel like an observer in No Man's Sky. I have well over 2,000 hours played. I stopped counting after a certain point, to be honest.
So Yalcha says, what Rawr said is exactly why my friends and I don't play regularly. No Man's Sky needs a lot more polish to existing features.
Yeah.
And I feel exactly like you do. As far as I think Next is a perfect jump off point from sort of my turbulent feelings at launch. Now, I full disclosure, I know. And I can say this all day, that in any given moment, usually there's only a dozen or two people working on this game at any moment. So I get it. I know this is tough. I mean, this is not Joe Danger. Not that I want to downplay how hard any one of those games were to make. But at the same time, like when Next launched, it seemed like every new feature that they put into the game that was verified, I mean, notably new and large and exciting, was broken for me. And some old bugs that were broken and fixed prior to Next were rebroken. Like, all of my ships on my freighter would not show up, right? So it was about 2 weeks to 3 weeks before I could fully enjoy the game again. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why they sort of, I mean, why we've been agonizing for the last weeks, right? Waiting for the lead up, because, I mean, not only are they sort of retooling the sort of engine and the sort of API, right, with Vulkan and stuff like that. They're doing a whole lot of work. They're bringing out VR, which historically, if we're talking about some of the bugs that the games or updates have launched with, I fear for VR users in a way, right, if we're going by history. But even then, right, it maybe just spitballing here, perhaps that's why the agonizing wait is happening, right? Perhaps that's why it's taking so long to find out anything about this. What do you think about that?
It's just Hello Games as its usual. Honestly, I wouldn't read in too much. This is how they do every major release. This is how it's always been. This is business as usual, which is actually giving me cause for concern. The big thing here, like maybe when Next released, they did sort of have a gun to their head because they were trying to get the game released with Next on Xbox. This time around, they don't have the proverbial gun to their head.
Mm-hmm.
They chose the release date,
yep.
And there's no impetus to this launch. So if it launches buggy and broken again, they have, I mean, honestly, they have no one to blame but themselves. And I can't imagine that the feedback of, hey, the game's not working proper hasn't gotten to them. And they should know that's a sticking point for some people. And particularly veterans of the game like myself who had poured in over 2,000 hours into this game. For us to jump back into Next and have some of our favorite existing features just broke entirely, and the features we're looking forward to in sort of a hybrid, half-working, not-working state, 2 years after its original launch, now we're at 3 years. I honestly don't have any real confidence going into this, and I mentioned on your Twitter, right now, I'm just expecting to be disappointed. So that way, when I'm not, and I'm hoping I'm not, like I'm hopeful that it's great.
That's some reverse psychology there. Like,
I'm hopeful.
You're mentally conditioning
great,
yourself to be disappointed.
But I am ready to be disappointed. And if I'm not, then I will be incredibly happy. And I'm rooting for the game. I really am. I'm rooting for it. I want Hello Games to do well because they took a risk. And they innovated in a space that desperately needed innovation. And it's something that I think what they do with technical procedural generation, what they do with procedural generation and all that.
Or procedural buggeration, as Ivy Mike said.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you, Mike. That was great.
The thing is it's just that I, for one, for my own community, have rarely talked about No Man's Sky. When there's an update, I say what it is, and that's that. I haven't had, this is the first long-form discussion about the game that I've had in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And as you guys might know, I am streaming live on my own channel at the moment because I know a lot of my guys would like to have that conversation, so I'm having it. But the thing is that I don't want to hype something up again that I don't know what it is. And it feels too much like business as usual again. Now, some people, you guys are, and more power to you. I don't criticize you in any way. I'm so glad that you love No Man's Sky as it is today, or as it was at launch of Next, and so on and so forth. Honestly, I don't fault you guys at all for loving and enjoying the game, and more power to you. But I just simply don't want to feed the hype machine and get involved in that again, because when I put my trust and faith into a company, and I tell people it's okay to get excited and it's okay to get in there, and then we get in there and it's, I'm sorry, but a mess, and it was. Not only does it hurt my credibility, which this game has hurt my credibility on multiple occasions, but I don't want to be part of why someone's hopes were up and then suddenly crashed and burned. So I'm going into this extremely cautious, but hopeful. Like I really, I wish I could impress upon you guys. I really want this game to be freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Star Citizen is vaporware at this point.
Yes. I tell you, if any of you have ever said No Man's Sky is a scam and then said I can't wait for Star Citizen, I think you need to get checked in.
I mean, like let's just be real. Let's just be real. Star Citizen is vaporware at the moment. Maybe one day we might get it in 2038, March 13th. I've been calling it for years. So
feels
far,
like a good
I haven't been
turnaround.
wrong. Yeah, it might turn around 2038, but No Man's Sky is like the closest to sort of this idea of a living, breathing universe, and it is strangely empty. And I feel like it should be up to the players to fill that world, and many of them have, but there's such a limited way we could do it. And so if there's anything that I'm looking forward to out of anything that we've heard of Beyond so far is an expanded multiplayer system, an online system, and that is encouraging. And when I first heard the news, I almost was like, yeah, and then I'm like, oh, hold on. And a little bit later, they did kind of backtrack and say, well, now hold on, guys. It's an expanded multiplayer experience. It's not an MMO, and they started playing down expectations almost immediately.
I almost feel like it was the opposite on that, and I think over the last couple of weeks we had that conversation here on the show where
fill me in, because I've been out of this scene for a year. I have not touched the game for a year.
And and one of my viewers brought this up. That very sentence that you brought up there was maybe it's not so much that they're downplaying the aspect of what the multiplayer portion is, but trying to downplay the MMO monthly fee aspect of it. How does everybody feel about that? In the chat there, let us know. But I do want.
Many MMOs these days don't have any monthly fees. Most don't.
That's true. And then there's a lot of MMO likes, right? When I look at something like DayZ or what is that? What is that one? Arc, right? MMO likes, right? Versus something like.
I don't know how in the world they get MMO like from that. 75 players on a server. That's not massive multiplayer. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you think of something that is like a large world, lots of players, social aspect, right? And I'm not an MMO player, like, at all. And I think initially it was the fees that turned me off of it, but it's just, I mean, watching you play Final Fantasy XIV, it's just like, I struggle to try to get into a game like that, but an MMO or a shared universe like Destiny or Anthem or Division really interests me more, because I feel a little more engaged and a little less what is it, cluttered by menu ware and stuff like that, like all of the options and numbers and gauges. And maybe I've got a small mind when it comes to that stuff, which I owned, but